Module 6.11, Adding and Multiplying Pressures in SPLs, Part 2. Now let's take this one step further. Let's say that I'm going to add 5 identical sources. If they are all 70 dB, if I divide the SPL by 10, that's 7. I'll make it the exponent. I'll have 10 to the 7th plus 10 to the 7th 5 times. That would be 5 times 10 to the 7th. I then need to take 10 log of that sum. And it should be obvious that if we have 10 log of this, it's also 10 log of 5 plus 10 log of 10 to the 7th. The log of 10 to the 7th is 7, so this will be 70. And this will be 10 log of 5. The log of 5 is 0.7, so this will be 7 equals 77 dB. If I was going to take 20 identical sources and add them together, I'll end up with 20 times 10 to the 7th. And so then I will have to add 10 log of 20 to the original SPL. So we can say that any time that you are adding identical sources together, you just need to add 10 log of the multiplier whenever you're adding identical sources. So what if you're adding together 100 sources? The log of 100 equals 2. 10 log of 2 is 20. So it would be 20 plus 70 would equal 90 dB. Now this also works if you're reducing the number of sources. Let's say that we have 4 sources and their total dB is 80 dB. Remember, that does not mean that they are each 20 dB because we do not add dBs together. So if we are then making half of it, we go 10 log of half. Since this is in the denominator, that equals minus 10 log of 2. The log of 2 is 0.3. Equals minus 3 dB. And it should sort of now be obvious, if we're doubling the number of sources, we add 3 dB. If we are halving the number of sources, we subtract 3 dB. Let's use this knowledge to help us make estimates. So first of all, remember that if we are doubling the number of sources, we're going to add 3 dB. So then if we're going to quadruple, we would add 6 dB. If we're going to multiply by 8 times, then we would add 9 dB. Because each of these is doubled, each time you add 3 dB. Now, what happens if I add 2 sources that differ by 10 dB? How much is added? For example, let's do 70 dB plus 80 dB. So we would do 10 to the 7th plus 10 to the 8th. And it turns out this equals 1.1 times 10 to the 8th. So then we need to do 10 times the log of 1.1 times 10 to the 8th. And that gives us 80.4 dB. So when we add 80 and 70 dB together, it only adds 0.4 of a dB. As we should know before, we can barely hear a 1 dB difference. So then adding 2 numbers that differ by 10 dB barely makes any difference, and we certainly would not hear that. So it turns out that if you are adding 2 sources and the difference is greater than 6 dB, the combination of the two sounds will be less than 1 dB difference. So that will help us estimating when we have to add several dBs together. So let's estimate 55 dB plus 56 dB plus 49 dB. 55 and 56 are almost the same. So if they were both 56, we know that 56 plus 56 would be 59 dB because we're doubling. Since it's 55, it'll be a little bit less than 59 dB. 49 dB is 6 dB less than 55 dB. So it's going to add less than 1 dB. So we're going to guess that the answer is going to be somewhere around 59 dB. So let's see what our answer is. So we go 10 to the 5.5 plus 10 to the 5.6 plus 10 to the 4.9. We add that together, it becomes a very large number, which turns out to be about 7.93 times 10 to the 5th. We then take 10 log of that, and it turns out that that answer is 59 dB, which is what we estimated up here. Remember, the answer is not 55 plus 56 plus 49, which would be 164 dB. It's important to know that all of this math assumes that the sources are producing the same frequency sound and are in phase with each other. Since that hardly ever occurs in the real world, actual measured SPL will be somewhat lower. To review, finding SPL or pressure with a calculator. To go from pressure to SPL, use 20 log P plus 94. You may need parentheses around log P. If comparing two pressures and want to know the dB difference, use 20 log parentheses P divided by P0, close parentheses. To find pressure given your dB SPL, use the 10 to the x key, parenthesis, SPL minus 94, close parenthesis, divided by 20, close parentheses. To add pressures, square the pressures, add the squares, and take the square root of the sum. To add SPLs together, divide each SPL by 10. Make each number the exponent of 10. Add all those numbers. It will be a very large number. Take 10 log of the sum. When doubling the number of any identical sources, increase the SPL by 3 dB. When multiplying the number of any identical sources, add 10 log of the multiplier to the original SPL.